It's the amazing Rico Brogna podcast with your host, Evan Roberts.
Welcome to Rico Brogna, a little instant reaction to the Mets losing to the Minnesota Twins by a final score of 6-3 in Game 2 of this three-game series. We'll break down the game. Also, we will get into the Juan Soto comments. There were a lot of people in the Rico Brogna email bag that was very upset. They said, Evan, Hoff, you guys did an instant reaction on Monday night to Game 1 of the Met Twin game, and you never talked about Juan Soto's exclusive interview with Mike Puma. Well, let me walk you through things. So the game ends, the Mets win, we do a podcast, and I swear to you, it must have been within 5 minutes of ending that Rico Brogna that we recorded on Monday night right after the game, where I read Juan Soto's comments. And I have to be completely honest. I chose going into my bedroom, my family's out of town, and I chose watching Monday Night Raw and an old episode of 90210 from immediately turning the mics back on to do a Rico Brogna. I'm sorry. We just did 45 minutes on a Met victory. I also didn't register the comments in my head really well until the following day. So we did a lot of it on Evan and Tiki. We will address it here on the Rico Brogna a little bit later on. But as far as why it wasn't in episode 462, there's your reason. We recorded it Monday night right after the Met victory. I read it 5 minutes after, and I'd rather kind of find out what Brandon's going to do with Emily Valentine. That's a 90210 reference, by the way. I don't know why I'm binging season 2. Like I decided as a huge 90210 fan that's the season I want to get back engaged in. Like I just want to check it out. But anyhow, let's get to the baseball. Look, this loss to Minnesota in Game 2, and I'm going to try not to freak out over losses when the team is 11-6 and they haven't lost back-to-back games all year, which they'll try to avoid doing in Game 3 of this series against Minnesota. So I'm not panicking. I'm not even angry. I'm disappointed. That's right. I'm like a father who's disappointed. But let's call it like it is about this game. This game was lost mostly by one person. Now, most games don't come down to that. Most games aren't about one guy. But truthfully, when you think about this loss and you think about what contributed to this loss, the guy who shoulders most of the blame is Francisco Lindor. Go back to the third inning of this game. Mets take an early lead on a Pete Alonso home run. Fantastic. Pete continues to be completely locked in. His 5th home run of the year, 20 RBIs. McGill has a really strong first inning in which he strikes out a couple of guys, works through a little infield single, works through a 2-out single in the second. And in the third inning, after he gives up that leadoff infield single to Harrison Bader and a 1-out hit to Byron Buxton, luckily he catches a break. Because after Matt Wallner got hurt, this guy, Deshaun Kiersey, comes into the game and lays down a bunt, which I thought was so hilariously bad. I get it's not Juan Soto. I get it's not what I was complaining about on the Rico the other night about Soto laying down a bunt in the first inning. But there's first and third. There's 1 out. I understand you have a kid coming up who hasn't had a hit all year, but you're trying to safety squeeze. And it worked out because he literally bunts the ball in the air. McGill makes the play, and they're set up, where Tylor is set up, to get through this third inning. 2 on, 2 out. Just got a huge break with the Kiersey bunt attempt. Mets are up 1-0, and he gets Ty France to roll one over to shortstop. The inning is over. The inning is done. We're going to go to the top of the 4th inning, and it's going to be 1-0 Mets. And Francisco Lindor, and we all love Francisco Lindor. It's like we have to preface this. This doesn't take away the greatness of Lindor. This doesn't take away the beauty of last year. But quite frankly, his defense has sucked this year. Is it the cold weather? Maybe. Probably. Not worried about it. But Francisco Lindor booted the easiest ground ball you'll ever see. And I get that if you're Tylor McGill, you can easily just go get the next out, which was Carlos Correa, but you gave the Minnesota Twins an extra out. Instead of it being 1-0, it's now 1-1, and I just had this sick feeling. That was the moment in this game, and maybe one of these days off, we will do a live watch-along so you can see this in action. instead of me saying it after the fact. But trust me, that Lindor era was the moment where I said to myself, because I got nobody around me these days, I said, we're not winning this game. And maybe that's irrational. Maybe that was just an emotional feeling. But I felt bad about what McGill was going to do next. And look, did I know what the offense was going to do? Absolutely not. I mean, at that point, we're in the bottom of the third inning. The Met offense didn't do much other than the Pete home run. But knowing the Met offense, sure, they'll wake up later in the game. But that era did feel like a real turning point in this game. Lindor's got to make that play. He did not. He's had a few of these this season. And Tylor McGill made it worse because he gave up the RBI single to Carlos Correa 2 pitches later. Luckily, Ty France ran right out of the inning by trying to go first to third, and Tyrone Taylor was smart and was heads up. Instead of an ill-fated attempt at throwing the speedy Byron Buxton out, he goes right to third base. And I got to give Buxton a lot of credit because I think a lot of guys, and I'll name names if you want, but I think a lot of guys don't score on that base hit because after Correa gets the hit, they're jogging around third base. And unfortunately, that run wouldn't have counted because the out, if that out occurs before you touch home plate, it's a timing play, that run doesn't score. And there's a lot of guys who are not running hard. Buxton ran hard. I give him credit for that. I know that's a small thing, but I did notice it because when Taylor threw France out at third base, we're obviously not seeing Buxton score. My instant reaction was, let me see if he scored. Gary Cohen said he scored, but with all due respect to Gary, I love Gary Cohen. He makes a lot of mistakes these days. I'm sorry. And I only say that angrily because I score the freaking games, and I am learning to not trust Gary Cohen when he tells me stuff. Can I bitch about that briefly? Like yesterday, when Christian Vasquez, game 1 of this series, depending on when you're listening, Christian Vasquez left the game with injury. He immediately says Ryan Jeffers comes in to catch. And then like 45 seconds later, he's, oh, wait, it's Mickey Gasper. Now, I know most people don't give a crap, but when you write down the name in a scorebook, you give a crap. Or how about the 9th inning on that error where the shortstop, who's in at shortstop at this point? Willie Castro made the high throw to first base and went off the glove of Ty France. He says that's an error on the shortstop. 30 seconds later, oh, wait, it's an error on the first baseman. So first world problems, I get it. But Gary Cohen makes a lot of mistakes these days. Sorry. So when Gary says the run scores, my reaction is show me the freaking tape. I don't know if the run scores. And when you look at the replay, what I did notice was that Byron Buxton was running hard. So credit to him. But that inning and this game really turned on that miscue by Lindor. Soto immediately tied the game up with the home run, which was great to see. Does feel like Juan is waking up. He had a 1-for-4 day. Didn't do much outside of the home run, but nevertheless, home run in back-to-back games, home run in the 4th inning, instantly getting that deficit back. But it felt like McGill never turned around his performance after the Lindor error. And I put that on Tylor, obviously. I mean, the run scoring in the 3rd, the RBI hit right after, sure, that's a Lindor issue. But Tylor McGill could come out and pitch a clean 4th inning, and he doesn't. Hits the first batter, gives up that double to Jeffers, which I do want to spend some minutes on because that was the ball that was ruled a home run and then not a home run. So he puts himself in a spot of 2nd and 3rd, nobody out, gives up the infield hit to Harrison Bader, does get a big double play to get through it, but then runs into the same problem in the 5th inning. And so Tylor McGill ends up throwing 95 pitches in 5 innings, which is such a McGill kind of performance. Honestly, Tylor McGill's finishing pitching line has a name for it now. It's called the McGill. 5 innings, 95 pitches, 4 runs, but 2 are earned. The only thing that McGill didn't do in this start that's unique for him is he didn't walk anybody. So I give him credit for that, but he threw a lot of pitches. He didn't go particularly deep in the game. And quite frankly, I think the Lindor error affected him. I thought it really changed his performance. And so around here on the Rico, we like to grade some of these starts. I kind of want to give him a C+. I don't want to go any higher than that. I know 5 innings, 2 earned runs seems good, and McGill's ERA continues to be very low. But his performance after the Lindor error turned. A lot of traffic. He also got very lucky, had a line out off the bat of Brooks Lee when Correa got hurt, that weird at-bat where Correa got hurt and then Lee had to replace him, and he fouled a bunch of pitches off. Acuna made a really good defensive play, robbing Larnach of a base hit. McGill was just very blah after the Lindor error. And the bullpen, kind of the same thing. It's tough to ever kill the bullpen because it's been so good. Max Kranick hadn't allowed a run, but Kranick was very mediocre. Gave up that leadoff double in the sixth. I thought he was going to fight through the inning after he struck out Harrison Bader with a runner on third and less than 2 outs. And then Edouard Julien got a huge hit. That was a huge hit, a 2-out RBI single that extended the Minnesota lead. Then Brooks Lee hits this absolute P-missile of a home run off Kranick. It was the first time this year where Kranick looked mediocre. Danny Young was, I guess, fine. He got through his inning and a third of work. But then you focus to the offense. You focus to the unit of this team that, despite an 11-6 start, has completely underperformed. And you got a little bit of everything from this offense in this game against Bailey Ober. You get the home run by Pete. They get mowed down until Soto hits a home run and really never had scoring opportunities. So this was, in a way, atypical of what they've done this year, where they didn't have a million scoring opportunities. They had no scoring opportunities. They did not put a runner in scoring position until Luis Torrens ripped that double in the 7th inning. But then with scoring opportunities, Jesse Winker just missed one. Got a hanging, I think it was changeup that he got under and popped up. Acuna drew that walk to set up Lindor, who came up in a big spot, first and second, 2 out, representing the tying run. A chance to have a big swing and erase the error, and he grounds out meekly to second base. This is a part of where this game is on Lindor, because he had multiple opportunities late down in this game with a chance to make up for the error, and he didn't do it. And in that case, he comes up, not even as the tying run, as the lead run. The tying run was actually on base after Acuna walked, and he grounds out. Pete Alonso with another extra base hit, a 1-out double, and Marte, who has really cooled off, ends up grounding out. And Brandon Nimmo and Hoff, you know what? Kill Brandon Nimmo today if you want. I think we'll all actually be okay with it, because not only does he take an 0 for 4, but it was a very meek 0 for 4 in which he was swinging early in counts, did not make a lot of hard contact. It was just a very Hoffman-like performance by Nimmo. That doesn't make sense. It was a very Hoffman feels right today about Nimmo. So go ahead, rip him to shreds if you want. That's fine.
I don't want to. I feel bad for him.
You feel bad for him?
Well, I got to be honest with you. Did you see Keith break down his final at bat where he went and
with his foot
jumped on the first pitch again? Dude, something is off. Like, we talked about this. He's going to be – there was conversation. He's going to play a lot, but maybe he has an off day. Who knows? I don't think he's healthy. And
I completely agree with you. And I'm glad you said that. He's 0 for his last 8, not that it's some kind of massive slump. They haven't given him off days. You're right. And I guess I'm wrong, because I really thought at the tail end of spring training, because of the physical issues he was dealing with, that the Mets and Mendy would be very careful with him. And they've got guys who can play the outfield. Even with the injury to Jose Siri, you've got Winker, you've got Marte. We haven't seen Marte in the outfield, but I assume he can go out there. We saw it in spring training. You even have Acuna, who I have suggested can certainly play center field. Brandon Nimmo does look like a guy who could use an off day. And I don't know if Mendy's going to do that with the day game after night game in game 3 of this series, but they are in a stretch in which they're playing every freaking day, 13 straight days. They're in the middle of it. They've played 5 of the 13 now. He looks, if he doesn't look hurt, he doesn't look 100%. That'd be what I'd say. If you want to say he's not hurt, he's not 100%. He doesn't look great in the outfield, which is another reason why we saw Nimmo shift to center in this game late. And the Mets are going to be without Siri for a long time. I don't want to see Nimmo in center field. I want to see Acuna in center field. That is my guy of choice at this point. I want to see him play center field. He played about 20 games in center field last year in the minors. He didn't do it in the majors, but he's done it in the minors. There's a vacancy right now with Jose Siri out for God knows how long. But to your point about Nimmo not looking healthy, I don't think it's smart for him to play center field.
No, I was laughing because I think we all expected that Acuna was going to be there. I know that's a weird timing for him to debut in center field, but whatever. He's got to play someday, right? And instead, you can put Nimmo out there, and I'm like, guys can't swing well, and we're gonna move already defensive liability in left field to move him to center field. That sounds smart.
The reason why I knew at least it wasn't going to be Acuna was because he used Winker. If he was going to put Acuna in center, he would have used Brett Beatty. And when you use Winker, you're kind of telegraphing that Winker's going to play left and Nimmo's going to go to center. But in terms of who you'd rather have up, I still think Winker is the guy you want up in a spot like that. But then you're not going to use two bench players, especially when you're short a bench spot. Now, the Mets have spent days not making a roster move. And my assumption on this, because I actually got into this very briefly on the radio on Tuesday, was 40-man roster considerations. They're going to have to call up a pitcher with Griffin Canning being sick. But Gary explained it where it's more about whoever they send down, they could actually call up within the window because it's an injury replacement. And that's a part of why they're waiting. And also, this is a new world. You don't have pitchers hitting, so you don't need all these pinch hitters. You can live a guy short on your bench. Like even this game, it really didn't change much. And I don't think it would have changed all that much if you had an extra guy. So that's the only thing that it's really affecting them with, or why they're thinking of waiting. But in terms of the near future, I want to see Acuna in center field. I do. I think that, I remember I was talking about this in spring training, that center field could be that position where a young player steps up and takes it. Drew Gilbert was on a rehab assignment in Port St. Lucie, so as much as he was tearing it up, it was a rehab assignment. He's now going to go to AAA. Gilbert's going to have to hit in AAA. If he hits in AAA, he could be up here in June or July. It's certainly possible. Jet Williams has not hit a lot right now in AA. He's got to hit for him to get that opportunity. But one guy who's up here, who's contributing, is Acuna. I mean, he's basically wrestled the second base job away from Brett Beatty, but maybe now, in terms of still giving Beatty that shot before McNeil comes back, you play Beatty at second, you move Acuna to center field. I'd like to see him in center field.
You sound like Brokeback Mountain. I just can't quit you, bro. Like, I swear to God, you keep on wanting to give Brett Beatty chances. I mean, I think that Acuna has stolen the job at second base from Brett Beatty. And you're right. If there's going to be a replacement in center field for Tyrone Taylor, makes more sense to be Acuna at this moment. But, like, I don't even want to think about Beatty at all on this roster.
I know that a lot of times this doesn't work out, but sometimes you can build off an at-bat. I thought that Beatty on Sunday, between his 10-pitch at-bat that unfortunately ended in a strikeout, and then the RBI triple, which was his last plate appearance, I was hoping that maybe he can build off of that. Unfortunately, we haven't seen him play since. So I can't tell you if he's building off of that. But Acuna's look good. The negative on Acuna, he made a couple of really good defensive plays in game 2, but he also pulled a Brett Beatty. Yeah, and what I mean by that is runner on third, less than 2 outs, Ty France at the plate. This is the 5th inning, so at this point, it's still pretty early in the game. It's 3-2 Minnesota. Ground ball to second base, and Acuna makes a slightly off throw, very similar to Beatty. Was that opening day? I think that was opening day, yeah, against the Astros, where he made that throw that was a tad bit off the line, but then the Mets had the instant replay review go for them. Instant replay wasn't going to help him here because, unfortunately, Byron Buxton was safe. But that was the only kind of negative of Acuna's defense, which is slightly off on that throw, which allowed the Twins to score another run. It's not an error. It's not a horrible play, but it's one of those little things that cost you. It's a little thing that cost them a run. I do want to talk a little bit about that double that was initially ruled a home run off the bat of Ryan Jeffers. That really pissed me off. So for those that didn't see it, I will describe it to you. 4th inning, 2-2 game. Larnick's on first after he gets hit by a pitch, and Jeffers smokes one to left field. And it looked like it was a home run. It did. It looked like it hit the top of the fence and then bounced off of the roses, if you will, the flowers, and then back on the field. The umpire, Adam Hamari, over at third base, doesn't really signal anything. Like, he kind of signals it's a home run, but not really. And so Jeffers stops. The base runner, Larnick, slows down between third and home, and the Mets properly complete the play and tag him out. That was another thing Gary Cohn got wrong until he corrected himself. The Mets tagged Larnach out. The Mets then challenge it because it's clearly not a home run. And as they're going over the review, I'm thinking to myself, I get why they're just going to put Jeffers on second and Larnach on third base. But this is some BS. Like, the Mets completed the play. How do we know? Like, we make the assumption that Larnach stopped running because he thought it was a home run. Well, the Mets didn't stop playing. How do we know Larnach stops at third base? We don't know that. How do we know Larnach scores? We don't know that. I think what these umpires need to do, I think they got to follow a page out in the NFL. Call it on the field. If you're not sure, it's in play. Let the play finish. Because it's easier to go back and say it's a home run, no harm, no foul. It's like a fumble in the NFL. Call it a fumble on the field. Because let the play finish, and if you see that it wasn't a fumble, no harm, no foul. Nothing happened. So my issue is, I think these umpires need to be instructed, if you're not sure, say it's in play. Because I think in a weird way, the Mets got screwed. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that the umpires should have just called him out because the Mets completed the play. What I'm saying is them putting their arm up in some confusing fashion caused the Twins to basically get a break because he could have been thrown out at the play. We don't know. We already saw the Mets throw a guy out on the bases. We saw that Tyrone Taylor play that we were talking about earlier. So what I'm bitching about really is not even this play in this moment. I'm just bitching that in general, I think they got to let the plays happen on the field. That would be my big issue. The other thing is, the Mets, when they did get golden opportunities in this game, they didn't hit. This was another 0 for with runners in scoring position. They ended up finishing 0 for 4 with runners in scoring position. They've had 5 games this season in which they haven't had a hit with runners in scoring position. That's 5 of their 6 losses. Think about that. So it's frustrating. I think what this does now is it points towards game 3 of this series. Can the Mets continue their streak of not losing back-to-back games, which they have not done this season, which is incredible? And can they continue their streak of winning series? And that'll be on the table for game 3 of this series against Minnesota. We do have the situation with Griffin Canning where he's not feeling well. And because of that, the Mets actually have to have a starting pitcher, not named Griffin Canning, start the finale of this series. Hoff, what is the latest on the Mets' plans when it comes to their roster right now?
Okay, so this will be fun. They are they're activating Justin Hagenman.
So he's going to start Justin Hagenman. Is that an assumption I can make?
No, you cannot. It's still TBD, as they're not sure if he's going to start or they're going to use an opener, which I say they use an opener more than not half the time as the pitching goes. With these, are
you trying to take that like some kind of victory right now? See, they're openers.
Hey, take the small ones. Take the small wins.
Yeah, Justin Hagenman seems like the likely guy because he's pitching in Syracuse as a starting pitcher. Let me look at his days and I'll tell you what he's done. But this is like, it's an unfortunate situation because of Canning getting sick. Obviously, we hope he's okay. But it screwed up their plan. Like the whole plan of, hey, we're going to insert a 6th starter. Hagenman last pitched on April 10th. So 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. It's going to be his 6th day. His last start, which was against the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs, he went 2 2/3 innings, allowed 6 hits, 4 runs, 1 earned, 5 strikeouts, and 2 walks. He threw 64 pitches. His appearance before that was 4 2/3 innings, 3 hits, 2 runs, 5 strikeouts, 2 walks. He threw 73 pitches. And before that, he actually pitched out of the bullpen and gave up 5 runs in 3 innings. So he hasn't pitched well down in the minor leagues, Justin Hagenman. But he was one of those guys who was the extra depth guys that we talked about in spring training. So I guess to your point, they could use an opener, but Hagenman's pitching on Wednesday. He's pitching in game 3 of this series. He's either the bulk guy or he's actually going to start the game. So Justin Hagenman is the answer to the trivia question. What else?
What else do I have?
Is that it? Who are they sending down is what I'm curious about, because they actually could send down Tylor McGill. Think about that for a second. He just started. So you buy some time by optioning him down to the minor leagues. The other guys with options are Huascar Braziman, who's pitched really well, but I would assume they're going to use him in game 3 of this series. Max Kranick is actually another good candidate, because since he pitched an inning and 2/3 in game 2 of this series, he's probably, most definitely, not going to be available for the Wednesday game for game 3. So Kranick also makes a lot of sense. It's not going to be Danny Young, only because they DFA him. If it's Danny Young, he's done. If it's Danny Young, he's off the roster. So be interesting to see what the Mets decide to do on that. If we have an answer before we're done recording and doing this live, Rico, we'll certainly let you know. But Justin Hagenman is the answer as far as who's going to pitch in game 3 of this series, at least the bulk of the time. And then what they can do is, if Canning's ready, he can go Thursday. I'm going to assume they're going to give him an extra day. So Peterson could go Thursday. Canning could go Friday. And there's Kodai Senga with his extra day pitching on Saturday against the St. Louis Cardinals.
The other news that we have, it's not great, but Francisco Alvarez had a decent offensive day in his rehab game up until the 6th inning when he got hit by a pitch, and then eventually got removed. After he did go into catch an inning, and then he got removed the next inning. So,
dude, that always happens. And I saw that clip, and it sucks, man, because for him to get hit by a pitch, which is just bad luck, and to get hit by a pitch in the same hand that he is recovering from is just awful luck. But we see this so much, where a guy gets hurt, guy gets hit by a pitch, he stays in the game, but that does not mean you're out of the hot water, because usually an inning later or 2 innings later, the guy comes out. So let's hope everything's okay with Francisco Alvarez. I know Torrens has done a great job, and he has. He had another double in this game. He continues to play great defense, throwing guys out. The Mets are better if Alvarez comes back. And the other thing about Torrens, I don't mean to be negative here, but we saw this last year. He played really well for a while, and then he fell off the rooftop and didn't give him anything offensively. Now, he'll always be good defensively, and we appreciate that. There's a lot of value in that. But let's not act like, who cares about Alvarez? Alvarez can add a dynamic to this lineup that honestly they need, because they're not getting a lot of production out of the bottom of their order. So hopefully everything will be okay with Francisco Alvarez. That absolutely sucks. Absolutely sucks. Let me get to Soto. These comments to Mike Puma in the New York Post is the definition of nothing. It is nothing to be mad at. It is nothing to be angry at. It's nothing to be screaming at. It is literally nothing. Actually, you know what it is? It's something. It's a guy giving an honest answer about the way he's being approached, because as good as Pete is, pitchers aren't respecting Alonso the way they respect Judge. Rightfully so. Judge is the best player in baseball. But I want to read Soto's comments, and I'll tell you again, or at least explain word by word on why I don't think there's anything here. So Mike Puma, I'm assuming, because he didn't leave this in his article, asked Juan Soto, hey, talk to me about the differences in terms of being protected by Aaron Judge versus the protection you have now with Pete Alonso. And Juan says, it's definitely different. Let's stop right there. It is different. And anyone who says that's a knock on Pete Alonso, it's not a knock on Pete Alonso, you numbskull. It's what the pitchers are doing. If you're offended for Pete, talk to every pitcher that's approaching Soto differently. Like that argument, like, so pissed me off when I heard that. Oh, he's knocking Alonso. How is he knocking Alonso? He's explaining what pitchers are doing. So the only ones knocking Alonso are the pitchers. And I understand why. As great as Pete is, it's going to take a while before pitchers start to respect Alonso. And before I continue, because we're going to go word by word on this, because it really pisses me off, not Soto's comments, the overreaction by some of my fellow Met fans. I could care less about Yankee fans. I don't care about that. I'm talking to you people, you Met fans. Some of you, not a lot of you. It's a small number of you. Last year, Juan Soto was intentionally walked one time in front of Aaron Judge all regular season long. One time. Okay? It happened late in the season in a game against the Chicago White Sox in which the Yankees were already winning 6-2. See, I'm giving you specifics. In the playoffs, though, Juan Soto was walked intentionally twice ahead of Aaron Judge. Do you know why? Anybody want to raise their hand and figure out why? And this is not to be a dick about Aaron Judge. It's just the reality. Judge wasn't hitting. And so pitchers, whoever those two pitchers were, I forgot, honestly. I didn't give you that answer. They decided, rightfully so, we'd rather go after Judge than Soto. So in the playoffs, pitchers said, hey, we're going to do this differently. To start this year, Pete Alonso is coming off another declining year. Of course you're not going to go after Soto as aggressively as you would if Judge was protecting him. What are you, an idiot? Why would a pitcher do that? Now, Pete's had a great start to the year. Can that change if Pete continues to hit? Absolutely. Absolutely. You could even argue that in this game, in this particular game we're talking about, game 2 of this series, that you did see Bailey Ober go after him a little bit more, maybe because Pete hit a home run in the first inning. I don't know. Maybe you did see that adjustment. So the idea of Juan Soto right off the top saying it's different, that's a fact. And it's different not because Pete Alonso sucks. It's different because that's how pitchers are approaching it. Aaron Judge, in my opinion, is the best player in Major League Baseball when Ohtani isn't pitching. I need to throw that in there. I think he is. I think he's that good. I think he's that dynamic. Sorry, I know this isn't the Hensley Mullins, but that's the damn truth. So yeah, it's gonna be different. That's line number 1. Let's go to line number 2. I had the best hitter in baseball hitting behind me. No shit, Sherlock. Like we all agree. So why is anybody annoyed right now? No one can be annoyed right now. If you're annoyed right now, you're looking to be annoyed. Let's continue. I was getting more attacked and more pitches in the strike zone, less intentional walks and things like that. I was pitched differently last year. Again, these are all facts. If you don't like it, go cry about it, but it's true. And as far as, well, why did Juan have to say it? I don't know. Juan's weird. He answered a question he was asked. And I get it. Like, I work with Tiki Barber. I brought it up to him on our show. Hey, Tiki, you were very much like that. You gave honest answers. And sometimes that pissed people off. And Tiki was like, yeah, I gave an honest answer. I thought we were out-coached when we got kicked by the Carolina Panthers in the playoffs. People got offended by that. Okay. Spot the lie. Spot the lie with Soto so far. Let's continue. I would say I'm getting a decent amount of strikes, but there's some specific situations where pitchers don't attack. I feel like I'm trying to do the same, do damage when I can, and whenever they want to attack me, I'll take my chances. And when they don't, I'll take my walks. I'm not trying to be selfish or anything and try to hit home runs every time. I'm just trying to take my pitches and take my swings whenever I can, and when they don't want to, I pass the baton to my teammates. So far, I mean, this is all perfect. I got nothing, got no issues anywhere. Let's continue. Everybody has a role, and I feel as a team, we've got to attack pitchers as a team. We don't have to attack the pitchers as individuals. If they don't want to pitch to me, I pass the baton and let Alonso do his thing. If they don't want to pitch to him, he should do the same thing. Yeah. I'm not a believer that Juan Soto or anybody else should really expand their zone that much because they're paid a lot of money and they're paid to drive runs in. Like, the beauty of Soto, and I appreciate this early in the year, is that he's got a great eye. And if you're going to throw pitches a centimeter off the plate and he is really locked in, he's going to take that pitch. He's going to take his walk. And I think that's great. I think there's a difference, and there's a fine line here between hunting walks and being really patient and attacking the pitches you know you can attack. Wade Boggs faced a lot of criticism. This was like my introduction as a kid to sports talk radio, because Chris Russo got on Wade basically saying he's looking for walks. Now, I was young at the time, so I'd love to go back and like sense if I had the same feeling as Chris did, which is that's not a guy being selective. That's a guy hunting walks. I don't think Juan Soto hunts walks. I think Juan Soto is an incredibly patient hitter. And if they're going to pitch around him, he's right. Pass the baton. And as long as Pete Alonso's hitting, that's great. And hopefully eventually Brandon Nimmo's going to start to hit. And Mark Vientos is going to start to hit. And when that happens, it's possible teams are going to say it's not worth pitching around Juan Soto. I know why you do it, but boy, if that guy's going to inflict pain on us, maybe it's not a good idea. So it is on Pete Alonso, it is on Brandon Nimmo, and it is on Mark Vientos to force pitchers to go more aggressively after Juan Soto because they're doing so much damage. That's it. This is a non-controversy. I don't want to say it's a non-story because, look, I talked about it on WFAN and I opened our show saying this is a non-story because in my opinion, it's a non-story. But I understand whether it's Yankee fans looking for red meat or some of my fellow Met fans who make mountains out of molehills. I respect that you think it's something. So we could debate it, and I did that on the Fan, and I'll do it right here. I don't think there's anything to this. I don't think it's a big deal. And I'll tell you proof that I don't think it's a big deal. Or not that this is proof, but you know who agrees with me? Gary Cohen. Now, again, that doesn't mean I'm right or anyone's right. But I was very intrigued to see if Gary would bring this story up on the SNY broadcast because they do a lot of almost talk shows during the game. He never brought it up. And I wonder sometimes, if the echo chamber of sports talk radio, which I'm proud to be a part of, and I get and accept that sometimes we make bigger deals out of things, most of the time because we honestly believe it. Maybe it's because we live in the sports world so much. I'm sure there are times in which I've made a bigger deal out of things that maybe you out there don't think are a big deal. The Juan Soto bunt could be an example of that. But I wonder if the Sports Talk Radio echo chamber and the Twitter echo chamber elevates things bigger than the reality. Now, whose reality? I guess that's up to the individual. But honestly, I am with Gary Cohen. I am with the Met fans who look at this Soto quote and say, there's nothing here. Because honestly, I thought it was just a guy giving an honest answer that I don't think anybody could argue with. There's nothing to argue. Pete Alonso is a wonderful baseball player. He is off to a great start. He had 2 more hits in game 2 of this series. Pitchers are not going to respect him like Aaron Judge until he's Aaron Judge, and he's never been Aaron Judge. So keep making him pay. Here comes the pain. That'd be my answer. Great. Pitch around Juan Soto and let those guys do damage and let Soto continue to get on base. Because I'll love a baseball player who, even when he goes through slumps, still gets on base every single game.
Oh, well, no question. I mean, that's part of Juan Soto that we love so much. I mean, first 10 games of the season, he got on base and he wasn't ripping the ball every single game. But I do have to agree with you on this because I don't know if everybody recalls the first season of Francisco Lindor, obviously the raccoon situation and his explanation of it and how that got him into an issue with the media and the fans and then the thumbs up, thumbs down thing. You know, like there was a lot of stuff that Lindor had to learn about New York. I think that at least Soto is ahead of it. I mean, having the experience in the Bronx last year, but the fact that he's able, just to be honest, like screw it. I'd prefer that. And again, I don't think it was a lot of anything. It was just a lot of facts from last year and whatever it is, what it is. He's not criticizing anybody on his team. He's not putting anybody down. So like, take it for what it is. I prefer honesty than giving us some other bogus excuse.
The only one that's putting down teammates is opposing pitchers because they have deemed a strategy of let's not let Soto beat us. And I don't even think that's the wrong strategy. I'm not even disagreeing with them, but they'll make adjustments. I like to think back towards last year, what happened with Soto, where one intentional walk all regular season in front of Judge, and then in the playoffs, it happened twice because there was an adjustment that was made. And that was the big difference. So game 3 of this series is a Wednesday afternoon game, game 3 of this series. Mets are going to try to win the series, win another rubber game, avoid a 2-game losing streak. And we will have our series recapping Rico at some point Wednesday night. Will not be an instant reaction. I'll be on the radio during the day, but at some point Wednesday night, you can tune in, whether it's on YouTube or download the podcast, and we'll give you a full series recap, even though we've done Ricos after each game. We'll still give you the full series recap. We'll preview what's going on with the series against the Cardinals, checking on the rotation, the roster moves, and a lot of emails because I've charted them. We'll do a lot of emails in our series recap edition of the Rico Brogna.
I just wanted, just for somebody else being held accountable, Francisco Lindor did speak a little while ago, and his quote was, it's unacceptable what's happening right now. It's unacceptable. I got to be better. It's not to the standards the Mets have. It's definitely not the standard I have for myself. It's been 2 games already that cost the team. So he's acknowledging his defensive mishaps.
I got nothing but love for Francisco Lindor, and I think our discussion here on the Rico is just calling it like it is. He cost them the game. He knows it. I know it. We all know it. That doesn't take away from believing in him. It doesn't take away from what he's done here. It's just the reality. And whatever the reason is, like the cold weather, it doesn't matter. He's got to be better, and he knows it. And I really think that this game, between not doing anything offensively, specifically with his at-bat in the 7th and his at-bat in the 9th, striking out to end the game, in which I was really envisioning Lindor walk and Soto having his moment. That's really what I envisioned. And then I'd have to hear Tiki Barber and Tommy Lugauer tell me on Wednesday, you know what got Soto going? His bunt attempt. Oh, my God. Both those guys are telling me this, driving me nuts. But Lindor's right. He's got to be better.
Do you think that the second strike that he swung at, the splitter that was in, it looked like it was out of strike zone? Do you think that would have been a strike if he swung at, if he didn't?
No. So the first pitch he swung at was bounced. Obviously, that was a ball. The 3-1 pitch was so effing nasty that, yes, it was a ball, but it was a 97-mile-per-hour splitter that was close. So if it was close, imagine what it looked like to Francisco. I don't do this often, tip my hat kind of pitch. That was so freaking nasty. And then the 3-2 pitch was just Thai cheese. Like, it was just, Duran really stepped up, even though the Twins defense tried to give it to the Mets again. Oh. You know, you get the bad throw or the bad catch, I guess, at first base by Ty France. Duran makes the terrible throw to second on what should have been the game-ending double play. And then Castro made a good play, like recovering the bobble. So the Twin defense tried. They tried to give it back. And look, Lindor has always held himself accountable. He is the captain of this team for a reason, even if he's not the official captain. He's got to be better. But aren't we used to this? Like, what's new? It's mid-April and Lindor's playing like crap. Okay, wake me up. Like, it's the same thing every year. And hopefully that begins with Game 3 against Minnesota and then the weekend series coming up against St. Louis. We do appreciate you listening, downloading, and hanging out with the Rico Brogna. Again, we got a very busy week because I got nothing else to do with my family out of town. We'll do our typical series recap. At some point, that will be live on YouTube and posted to wherever you download your podcast on Wednesday night. And then I plan on going to the games Thursday and Friday. And you'll love this, Pete. I have a new setup. I've got a phone holder in my car. And so the instant reaction drive home Ricos on Thursday and potentially Friday will hopefully look better for those that consume on YouTube. So there you go.
I got to be honest, man. I didn't mind seeing the top of your car ceiling for a little bit. It was a nice view, but I think most people will like to see your face.
We will do our best. So we got a whole full week of Ricos, and hopefully the Mets get some victories. Thank you very much for listening, downloading Rico Brogna.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Rico Brogna podcast. It's amazing, isn't it? Make sure you download it now to keep it on you at all times.